Hi guys, we're going to take a look today at the app Studies. Studies is a very powerful flashcard application for studying. So it's really for students, perhaps university or college students, maybe even high school students, or anyone else that just needs to learn something. If you need to learn a language, or you need to learn to pilot an aircraft, or you are at medical school and you need to learn a lot of anatomical diagrams, this might be the perfect tool for you. Basically, anytime you need to learn something, you can use Studies. So let's take a look at Studies. Studies is down here in the dock. We just click on here, this yellow icon. This is the Mac version, of course, and there are other versions as well for other Apple platforms. For example, there is an iOS app which works on the iPhone and the iPad. And that syncs up very nicely with the Mac version. So those two things together work very well. Now here is the Mac version, and you can see I've already imported some basic notes here. These are offered to you when you first launch the app. I've got this Welcome to Studies session. These things on the right, on the left here are stacks. So each stack has a number of study notes. And study notes are basically what you would traditionally call flashcards. People have been using flashcards to learn things for many years. Flashcards, of course, are traditional paper cards, which you have, for example, a question on one side and an answer on the other side, and you look at the question, try to think about the answer, and then you flip it over and see if you were right. So flashcards have been used for a long time. Studies really takes flashcards to the next level. It is a flashcard app, really, but it is very powerful compared to traditional paper flashcards, and also compared to other flashcard apps. It's very powerful, and we'll see that as we go. So here we've got the notes, or the flashcards of a particular stack called Welcome to Studies, and this is called the stacked view, where we just see the first side of each card. And if we want to see all the sides, we can come up here and change the view with this button to the spread mode, and then we can see all of the different facets in each card. So if it's a question and answer card, we would see two sides. And you can see that many of the cards have more than two facets, and we'll get to that a bit later. But you can see, basically, Studies is one of very few apps that allows you to have as many facets as you like, as many sides to your notes as you like. So it's extremely powerful. Okay, so let's begin by actually creating a new stack and making our own flashcard. So let's click here the new stack button. You can see we can name it anything we like. Let's name this cars. We're going to make a stack of cars that we want to be able to identify. So I'm going to save this. And you can see now we can click the new note button, and we'll create a new note in the cars stack. And this is our editing mode. You can see we've got a question here and an answer. These are two different facets of the note, and we can have as many facets as we like, which I'll show you in a minute. Okay, so first of all, we really need some content. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out to the web, and I'm going to search for Ferrari images. I'm going to click on a Ferrari image here, and I want to use this, I want to identify this as a Ferrari 458. So what I'm going to do is, there's different ways I could do this, but one way is just to drag it into the image bin here, and I could type here in the text of the answer, Ferrari 458. Okay. And of course, you've got the controls here for audio. You can record audio if you're studying a language, for example. You can add extra text on this side. For example, what is this car? And you could even add a picture over here. So we've made our card, and we click done, and you can see that this is what our card looks like in the browser. Now imagine we did this with a number of cards, and now we want to study them. What we can do is we can come up here to study session, and we can choose one of the options. So I'm going to do the notes in the stack. There's only one note in this case, but it demonstrates the point. We can see what we just made. We can resize by dragging the right quarter here if you want to make your notes bigger. This is what is this car? That's the question. Now I can think in my head, okay, what is this car? I think it's a Ferrari 458, for example. I can move to the next facet by clicking this button here, and I can see it's a Ferrari 458, and there's Enzo Ferrari. And I could also, if I've got a trackpad, I can swipe back and left and right with 2 fingers to move between them. So that's a very simple example. This is our study mode. You can move forward and back with these buttons here, and you grade yourself right or wrong with these buttons. So in this case I got it right, so I'm going to leave it as green. By default it will be graded correct. So if you just move on without grading, it will be graded correct. Over here on the right, bottom right, is some statistics. And in this case, we just had one card, we got it completely right, so the pie graph is just completely green. But if we got some wrong, you would have a red slice here as well. So you can see it's a pretty powerful app. We click exit here to go back to our organizational mode. I'll just do one more example of a study session with more notes. Let's take the samples here and go through and just look at some of the types of things you can make with studies and some of the special features. Okay, before we do, I just want to show you one really important aspect of studies, and that is it is a really powerful study scheduler. So what I'm going to do here is I've got this sample stack. Imagine you've made this yourself, for example, and I'm just going to click this I button here. You can also double click it, it works the same, and it brings up information about the stack. Down the bottom here is something really important. That is the study schedule. You can see at the moment it's on do not schedule the notes for study, but you'll probably want to have study scheduling, and what that does is it makes the notes due for study. So every day you get new notes that are due, and you can study those, and studies will ensure that you are using your time most effectively. Probably the one you want to use most of the time is this long-term learning schedule. If you click on that, it uses a spaced repetition system, an SRS, some people call that. Now that is a scientifically developed scheduling system which ensures that each day you are studying the things you need to study the most. So what happens is you go through your study session and you grade how well you knew things. So if you knew something really well, you might make it correct. You grade it correct. If you didn't know it so well, you grade it incorrect. And the ones that you grade incorrect appear more often. So if you grade something incorrect, it might appear the next day. If you grade something correct, it might appear after a week. And that means you're really concentrating on the things you don't know very well, rather than wasting time studying what you already know. So spaced repetition is a really great way to learn things for long-term learning. Now there are some other options. For example, if you're a student, Studies has a unique schedule called targeting and deadline. No other flashcard app has this particular scheduling algorithm. And what this does is it uses a long-term learning spaced repetition system, but it targets a particular date. So it makes sure that on that date you know the information as well as you can. So it's very efficient, but it also targets a date. For example, if you've got an exam, you could set the date here on the right, and you could be pretty sure that you will know the information well when you get to the exam. So this is usually used, say, when you've got a month or two until the exam. That's when it's most efficient. If you've only got like 2 or 3 days for an exam, you'll probably want to use this short-term cramming system. People call this the Lightner system. It's a popular system as well. It's not daily based, so you can continue going through the notes as much as you like until they're all learnt. So yeah, it's really good for cramming, where you just got a day or two to study for an exam. You just want to get the information in as fast as possible. Again, you mark things right and wrong. The ones that you mark wrong will appear more often, and that way you learn the information really well. The last one here is just if you want to see something regularly, for example, every week or every month or every year. That's a good one for that. So I'm going to go back and use the long-term learning system. I think that's the one you'll usually be using. I'll click save, And you can see that my notes here have all gone green. And what that indicates is they've got a green stripe, which indicates that they are due for study. Now I can come up to the top here and do study all due. And it will make a slideshow of all the notes that are due for study. And you can see here all the samples. So now I can go through and it says, what is this painting? It's the Mona Lisa. Oh, I didn't know it was Da Vinci. I didn't know his dates. So I'll mark this wrong. I'll click this red button here at the bottom. I'll grade this as wrong because I didn't really know it. There's a picture of Da Vinci, and here's an example of you having more than just two sides. You can have as many sides as you like in studies, which is very unique to the app. In this case, I haven't got any useful information on this last side, but you could put something useful there. Here's a simple question and answer one. What phase of the moon is this? I'm going to say it's waxing gibbous. And that was correct. So I'm going to click on correct for that. I can click this button here to move forward. Okay, the flea flicker, this is an example of an unusual usage for studies, but certainly a valid one. If you had to study American football plays, this might be a great app for that. So the flea flicker is a particular American football play, and you try to get an image in your head of what that involves, and then you look at the second side, just swiping with two fingers on your touchpad or clicking the button, and you can see the play and decide whether you thought you got that right, whether you knew it well enough. If you did know it well enough, you mark it right. If you didn't know it well enough, you mark it wrong. I don't know this one, so I'm going to click wrong. Move to the next facet. Here is a really cool example of a procedure. This is something where studies really excels and where most flashcard apps fall down. So you've got a procedure, a really long procedure. Maybe you're learning to pilot an aircraft and you need to learn a whole bunch of stuff in order for a particular procedure. In this particular case, this example, I was learning sailing and I needed to learn the procedure of raising a particular sail, the main sail. So I made a procedure, and every single facet is one stage in that procedure. So here's a picture of the mainsail. It's a procedure. You can see here at the back there is some useful text. When the sail is about 2/3 up, loosen the main sheet a bit and allow the boom some freedom to move. So, and this is and then at the end, turn them off the motor and steer the boat off the wind. So yeah, you can make a procedure for just about anything. You can add as many facets, what we call facets or sides, to that note as you need. If you are an actor or an actress, you probably want to learn lines, and this is an example of how you could use studies learning lines. So Hamlet, Act 3, Scene 1, to be or not to be. It's a famous saying. You could go through this trying to remember the lines, and if you think you got it right, you mark it correct, and if you think you didn't know it well enough, just simply mark it wrong. And if you mark it wrong, it will appear more often so that you learn it better. So that's basically it. If we come back here to the samples, we can see that some of them are no longer due. They're the ones we studied, and the others are still due. So we could later on continue on and study. So that's studies. Studies are really a powerful flashcard app, powerful app for learning things, and it doesn't really matter what it is you have to learn. It could be American football, it could be sailing, it could be medicine, law, anything you like, really. It can even be people's names. If you have trouble remembering people's names, make a stack of people at your work and put pictures and their names, and then you very quickly learn people's names. So yeah, anything you need to internalize, learn, Studies is a great app for. And of course there's an iOS version as well, and it syncs up beautifully with this Mac version, so you can study on the bus, get home, make your notes on the Mac, and then use the iPad on the couch, on the sofa, or whatever. So yeah, it's really powerful. There's a demo version you can download, so try that and let us know what you think.